was really honored that you asked if I would contribute this evening. I find it very ironic that you are in the study of Esther, as I'm going to talk about human trafficking. We see evidence even as far back in our biblical times that the value and treatment of women at this particular time in history had a lot of sexual overtones. And we see it in the banquet, and we see it in the invitation from Vashti, who was asked to come basically naked to the event. But in today's world, human trafficking is considered modern day slavery. Under federal law, it involves controlling a person through force, fraud, coercion for the purpose of sexual exploitation or labor, or both. Domestic minor sex trafficking occurs when children under the age of 18 are commercially sexually exploited. Children can be commercially sexually exploited through prostitution, pornography, and/or erotic entertainment. The unfortunate side of all of this is that human trafficking is the second largest criminal industry in the world, following drug dealing, and the fastest growing, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. According to service providers interviewed, 70 to 90% of trafficked victims have a history of childhood sexual abuse. Victims are often beaten, starved, raped, threatened to be killed, or their families are threatened. 100,000 children are estimated to be in the sex trade in the U.S. each year. This is children. These are kids that are under 18. Texas reports the second largest human trafficking cases, next to California. In fact, our statistics in California and Texas are very close. So at any given time, we could be number one, California could be number two. Within the state of Texas, Houston is has the largest cases of human trafficking within the state. And Dallas ranks number two. In the city, in Dallas County, at any given time, there's anywhere from about 450 to 550 children that are being sexually exploited. Those are not good numbers for us. It's very disturbing. And I give you some statistics because there's a lot of myth around trafficking. But in our country and in our state and locally, it's pervasive. One of the things that I'm involved with is with an organization called POIEMA. And I'd like to talk a little bit about what POIEMA is and its founder. She has a remarkable story. When she was, I want to say a little bit younger, she's got grown children now, but at one point in time, she had 4 wonderful daughters and a very supportive husband. And she began her seminary at studies at Dallas Theological Seminary. That's a lot to take on. Anybody that's ever tried to go back to school or further their education with 4 kids at home is a lot of work. But she graduated with her degree from Dallas Theological Seminary, and she knew that there was something special God was calling her to do, but she had not quite, he had not revealed that to her yet. And her mentor at her home church in Rockwall, Texas, challenged her, now that you have that fancy degree on your wall, what do you plan to do with it? And she attended a conference. And during that time, the subject of human trafficking came up, and some rather pointed statistics were given about human trafficking. And when she walked away from that, she was very affected by that. And she realized that I think this is where the Lord's calling me to serve. I see that maybe perhaps I would like to have a safe house to rescue and find a place of solace for people who are and kids who are in the industry that wish to escape. And she expressed that to her mentor, pastor, and she said, I just feel like the Lord's calling me to open a safe house. But the only problem is I don't have a house and I don't have any money. And he said, well, he said, I think that when we have our conference next month, I'd like for you to speak about what you see your vision for human trafficking to look like. And let the Lord reveal from there. And she did. And she spoke to a large group of attendees to the conference at her church. And she expressed her view of what she wanted to do. And after she spoke, and at the end of the conference, when people were chatting after the lecture, a woman came up to her and said, I feel like the Lord has brought me to you because I have a house and you have the need of one. And she said, I have two houses. I'm moving to Florida with the rest of my family, and the Lord has laid on my heart to give my house away, but I want it to be given to someone who is going to make use of it for the Lord. And she said, I really think that I'm meant to give my house to you. And she was, of course, flabbergasted by that. And she went back to talk to the church staff, her church pastor, about this. And he said, did you ask her any more detail about the home? And she said, no, I didn't. And she said, well, why don't you get back with her and let's talk about the detail. And like, is there a mortgage on the house? What are the conditions and the terms for accepting the house? And so when she phoned the lady a couple of days later, the lady informed her, she said, it's paid in full. Don't we just love to hear those words, paid in full? And that included the furniture, the appliances. She says, I've taken just my personal items, but I'm giving it to you. And it's ready for you to do as you please. So she had to hurriedly set up a 401c nonprofit to be able to move forward. And rarely do you, and she reached out to the church, and the funding that she would need to open the house to begin with came within a week. So that you can just tell by that the Lord was certainly gracious to her. And as she opened the house and got residents for the first time, the Lord spoke to her about an outreach, what to do for the children, because the safe house was for adult women. And there was another church that basically said, we have an outreach program, but we're going to discontinue it. Would you like to take over our outreach program? And that is to reach minors. That is to go and visit hotels and motels with posters of missing children from the North Texas area, and distribute those, and with a tip line on it, so that can be used for tips to be called in if anyone sees these missing children. So here we are 10 years later, and with POIEMA, we have recovered over the last 7 years around 475 children from the North Texas area who had become victims, some of them becoming victims of sexual traffic, or some of them were runaways from really bad home situations. But in all of this, and the safe house, they have this last year, they added on 4 new bedrooms and 4 bathrooms to their house, and it's a beautiful safe haven. However, she was realizing, where are we going to get the money for this? And in 10 days, they had the $250,000 they needed. And a year ago, actually this month, they opened and they were able to bring 4 new people in to the Safe House New Women. So, the ministry has grown. POIEMA partners with churches and other groups who are willing to do outreach. And like I said, we've been very successful about that. I have been involved with leading the outreach program with Stonebriar for a couple of years now. And I find that it was something that had always been on my heart. But when the Lord laid it on me really seriously last year, I realized that is in my retirement right now, that I love to work with POIEMA to educate people about what sex trafficking really looks like. It's a large problem, and I could talk for hours on all the parts and pieces of human trafficking, but POIEMA is a wonderful organization for groups that want to be personally involved in being boots on the ground to deliver to the hotels and motels, businesses around the North Texas area for the missing kids that need to be found. And this is one of the ways that we can serve once a month. And we are affiliated with 17 other groups and churches, and more are being added all the time to help us go out and do an outreach. And I love it, and I wish everybody could join and on an outreach and help us go find these kiddos.